Okay, hi, welcome to this little demo. This is to help with understanding of percentages, decimals and fractions, and trying to gain that knowledge through doing hands-on activity of equivalent percentages, fractions and decimals. So first of all, we just need to remember what we want to keep in the back of our minds is that if we are told that we have a whole thing, that is 100%. So with 3 pieces of paper, I can start by going, okay, well, writing on one side, so this is 100%, okay? And I think we're all okay with that. We understand that this whole thing is 100% of the piece of paper, okay? So now that I've got that explained, and it doesn't matter what it is, you know, it could be the piece of paper, it could be 100%. This is one whole hacky sack, so that's 100% of the hacky sack. And if I did 50% of it, I'd cut it in half, so it would go like this, and then I'd have 50 and 50. So, oh, being Sandy, being down the beach. Okay, so so what I want to, once you've got that into your head, then what I'd like you to do is you collect 3 pieces of paper, A4 is a good size, and you then fold it in half like this. So you'll see why it's going to be 3 pieces of paper in a minute. Okay, so this brings us to doubling and halving. Doubling and halving is a really important skill, takes you a long way. And as soon as I've folded it in half, I'm going to now look at what I've got. Well, actually, because this is half here, here's my fold line down the middle, like that. I have 50% here, and also 50% here. Okay, so I can say pretty convincingly, I think, that we go here, I can say to myself that if I had this and this, that would be 50% plus 50%, which would equal 100%. Okay, so it's that kind of understanding we need. We don't want to write anything on this side just yet. So I've got 50%, and 50 and 50 gives me 100. So this is the foundation of the thinking that we're going to continue to use to develop our knowledge. Okay, so 50%, 2 lots of 50% give me 100%. Cool. Still 3 pieces of paper, but just concentrating on the front one first. So I'm just going to wipe that away, because now I'm going to fold it. I've folded it once. I'm going to fold it again twice. So, you know, I folded it in half. Now the question is, what have I folded it into? So I open it back out, and I'm having a look here. What have I got? Well, I've still got my 50% here, even though there's a line through it. All of this together here is 50%, and I've got another 50% here. But because it's into 4 pieces, what is each one of these worth? Well, some of you will say, I think it's a quarter. Well, that's right. So the question is if everything is 100%, and if half is 50%, then what is a quarter as a percentage? Well, it turns out that if I multiply 25 by 4, I get 100. So this one here is 25%. This one here is also 25%. So I'm going to put my dotted line here, just to help me understand that this is 25% and so is that, and that this whole bit here is 50%. Okay, and I can tell that they're the same because they're the same. They take up the same area, yep, of the whole thing, whatever the size is of the whole thing. Okay, so 50% here, never mind the crease mark, 25% here, okay, and 25% here. So that means, if I ever think about this, 50 is made up of 2 25s. Cool. Okay, next time I'm going to fold it once, I'm folding it twice, and now I'm going to fold it again. Now you'll notice that this gets a bit bent and stuff, but you just need to do your best job you can. So you take this and you fold it like that, and then open it back out. Okay, so here we are. I've got, now how many sections have I got? Well, I've got, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 8 parts. And I can see here that I've got my 25%, my 50%, and now I've got this section here. And what I want you to do is I want you to get your line and put a dotted line down like that. So now what I've got is I've got 25% here, but I've got half of 25% there and half of 25% there. So then now we need to think about what's half of 25. And if I want to do that, I have to go 25 divided by 2. Okay, so that means I've got 25 things. Here they are, 25 things, and I want to split them into 2 equal groups. Yep, that's another way of looking at it. So you've got to split those 25 things into 2 equal groups. Or I can, for those of us who think about fractions, put 25 over 2. Okay, that's another way of writing 25 divided by 2. So we've got lots of different ways of thinking about that. So 25 split into 2, 25 split into 2, 25 split into 2. Okay, just a way to think about it. So that's that. So if I divide 25 by 2, I might go, well, 25, I don't like that because the 5's annoying me, so I'm just going to split my 20 and divide that by 2. And I'm going to get my 5 and then divide that by 2. That's pretty straightforward now. That gives me 10. And then 5 divided by 2. Well, I suppose I could go again, couldn't I? I could go take 4, divide that by 2. Well, that equals 2. And that gives me 1 left. So I'm going to then go 1 divided by 2, which is 1 divided by 2. So that's a half. So now I need to add those two together, the 4 and the half, the 2 and the half. And so 5 divided by 2 is 2 and a half. Okay. So now I can then go back up this way. So I've got 20 divided by 2, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. So now I'm going to put those two together, and that gives me 12.5. Okay, so half of 25 is 12.5. Cool, and we were talking about percentages. So we're going to bring these back here and name this one here 12.5%. Okay. And we're going to stop there because we're not going to get any finer on our fractions because I'd be splitting 12.5 again, etc., etc., etc. But I don't want us to worry about that. So we're actually going to go 12.5% as well there. Okay, so you've got 2 12.5%, 1 25%, 1 50%, and all together, look, they make the whole thing, so that must be 100%. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start thinking about what this might be in terms of fractions. So I know that this bit is half. Yeah, I've been taught about halves a long time ago, so it's not too tricky for me to remember. So this time I'm going to do this line here, and with my 50% last time I go, well, that's half. Yep, that's one thing split into 2 pieces, and that's one of the things. So that's half there. And we know also that this is a quarter. Okay, and then if we look at the number pattern, I've got 2, 4. Well, this here, we're trying to work out what this is. So this here is I need 8 of these to make the whole thing. So this is 1 of the 8 of the whole thing, okay? So, and this is also 1/8. So I've got 1/8 and 1/8, and 2/8 make a quarter, and then 1/4 and 2/8 make the same amount as 50% or half here. Cool. So now we've got that understood. Okay, now we're going to have a little think about how we represent this in decimals. And to do that, we just want to have a little look back at the percentages. So 50 out of 100, yeah, 50%. And we can simplify that. And just for knowledge's sake, because this is really an exercise in knowledge, this here is 0.5. Okay, and if we just quickly compare them, if that's 0.5 and here that was 50%, I can see that this here is 0.25. Cool. And then if I'm going to come down here, I've got 12.5, and I'm going to call that, which is what it is, I'm going to call it what it is, 0.125, 0.125, 0.125. Cool. So now what I'll have in front of me is I have one piece of paper that looks like this, one piece of paper that looks like that, and another piece of paper that looks like this, making sure that I can see these percentages really clearly. Once you've got that, then when you come to do any calculation, it's going to really help you to have these physical things in front of you to understand what equivalent fractions and percentages are.